Welcome to the Building Spirit-Filled Homes podcast by Red Mountain Community Church. This podcast exists to help us engage with a variety of topics through a biblical lens. It is our prayer that we'll take all that we learn from these conversations and apply them to our lives so that we can make a kingdom impact on those around us, starting in our home. Thanks for joining us for our conversation today. Welcome to another Building Spirit-Filled Home podcast. Today we have the Mills with us, and we're going to talk about sports, family, life, and faith. And so we're really excited for you to join us with us today. So check this new podcast out. Brad and Annie, thank you for joining us on the couch to figure out, talk about sports. I know, Brad, you were in professional baseball as an athlete and also within the organization, and now you're a dad. And Annie, you got to be there for all of that and all of the complexities that go with that. But what I really wanted to ask you guys, or just have you guys speak on, is what's it like now as parents? How do you guys navigate organized sports? We live in a culture where organized sports seems to just take over families' lives. How do we do this, like, as believers? Like, what have you learned? Like, how can it be a benefit? What do we need to look out for? How do you manage kind of all those things?
Yeah. Want me to start?
Yeah, you start.
Yeah, I mean, I think first of all, like you mentioned, sometimes people think it's either sports or it's go to church, that both can't coexist. And I think it's been really cool to see how the Lord has used sports in my life, through my professional career, and now trying to coach my kids, and how he can actually use that to further his kingdom, through relationships. And so, so many good things get developed in sports, being part of a team and, having a coach and work ethic and all that stuff. And so there's good benefits, but obviously you have to set up some boundaries and priorities when it comes to your faith, or it will take over your life. Like you mentioned, especially in today's culture. It's not like when I was growing up, when it was, a couple hours a week and one game a week. It's like, it's pretty intense.
You're all in.
And yeah, you're all in. And so, I'd say the first thing, is, again, establishing those boundaries as far as your faith. It's like, this is what I'm willing to do. This is how far I'm willing to take it, and, and commit to that. But at the same time, respect those boundaries when there's going to be outside pressure to do more and more and more. And that's definitely been a challenge at times, but it's been really rewarding sticking to that, knowing that, that's kind of, that is where our ultimate priority is, continue to keep, church and our relationship with the Lord, first and foremost.
Awesome. So how did you guys navigate that as a couple, like deciding what those boundaries are? How do we establish them for us as parents, for our kids? How do you guys just develop those?
I mean, through prayer first of all, is like in baseball, you have to play on some Sundays. Like, you can't not. And so then it's like, okay, how many Sundays do we feel comfortable with missing out on church? And, is it okay to miss out on Sunday? And just, praying through that. And, for our personal team, like, I like to keep the fall a little more chill in terms of the sports, and that's more of our family, and like really commit. And then spring is a little more involved, and feel like that, praying like that together, and soliciting the feedback of the families and stuff is important too. But ultimately, you kind of get a piece of what the Lord has for it, in terms of setting those boundaries to where, like, you still feel like, okay, if I miss a Sunday or two, I'm not prioritizing the sports ahead of my relationship with the Lord.
Well, and we're also protecting, because as you are coaching this team right now, trying to protect Wednesdays when there's youth group or there's, other stuff. So right now we're in the waiting game of hoping that this, we requested not to have Wednesdays. We're waiting to find out if that request is honored or not. And then if it's not, then we shift and we have to kind of decide what we can do. So ultimately, this has not been our journey with sports this whole time. We're at this point with our kids that are now doing club sports, which is different than just basic youth sports. So this is kind of built over time. And as it's been years of Little League and walking through these with our kids and kind of getting to the point where, okay, now it's kind of more intense and we have to make these choices. It hasn't always been that way. So I think, just like what Brad said, we're just really trying to navigate the priorities in our home and, ultimately showing our kids that our priority is still God and church and all these things, and sports comes second. And so how we just have to navigate that with our own family, but then also the families that are also walking along this journey with us.
Well, I love how you guys, you're not only just focused on your family, but also the other families in the team. So it's sounds like a big witnessing opportunity. So like, it's not necessarily just about baseball, but how is your faith being expressed in just scheduling or rhythms? And it sounds like you guys are, so tell me a little bit how you've seen maybe that be at play, because maybe some people are like what you said, Brad, either sports or God, and you're saying, which I think in a healthy way is saying, no, you do both, but you got to develop these rhythms. And so how have you guys seen the opportunity to bring faith maybe into baseball is a great question.
I mean, I think the ultimate thing is just building a sense of community with people. It started in the Little League that we were volunteering with for a couple years, just getting to know families and people, and you see them a bunch, and end up, Annie volunteered in the snack bar a bunch, 3 or 4 nights a week, and I'm coaching and just around, and you end up, like meeting people. And then most of the people on the team that we're with now came from our little 2-mile radius of our house, so it's, club sports, what I've learned is a lot of it is very wide stretch. You have tryouts, you bring in just the best players to form the best team. Yeah. And we have decided to hey, we're going to just be communal, and the people that we've been with for a while. And there's a couple people that have gone to Red Mountain for a long time. There's a couple people that have started coming to Red Mountain, in the last couple of years. And so it's really cool to see how the Lord uses just community and our common love of baseball for our kids to build a good relationship of all the parents and the kids play together. It's been a big blessing.
Yeah, God's really used that space, for other believers within that space to reach out to their friends. And we've seen, been able to witness that. And that's been really special to see how God's used. I feel like it's taken time. It's not just you start this whole thing and automatically God's using it in a big way. It's been years and years of just walking along this sport journey with our kids and seeing how the Lord has built that community. Really, it's been over 5 years probably of this community being built, and just stepping into that as a family. I would say an encouragement to those who are maybe on the fence of whether or not we do this. It's we've been committed as a family, doing this together. We all show up to, not all practices, but we come to a lot of practices. We come to all the games, even our youngest comes with. She's not on the team, but she comes, and just kind of making it a family thing that really helps that, just making it as far as Christ, in our home, and this is something we do together, and supporting each other. And then, just being communal and showing up and meeting people around you. Again, we're with the community that we started a long time ago, but in those early years, it was stepping out and being hey, is Johnny on this team? Or what's your son's name? Where does he go to school? Just reaching out and having those little conversations to just meet someone. Cause I think a lot of people show up to these sports, they pay their money, they want their child to be in a sport and learn something and move on. But it's so much more than that, or it can be so much more than that when we give it to the Lord and look for those opportunities to really grow in your own faith, but just even you can see God move when you allow yourself to put yourself out there to meet someone.
So a big part of it too is just the perspective that you guys go into it. I also love the fact that I think in club sport too, there's this idea of we have to be on the best team, and and it's really impressive for you guys coming from, the professional world, making it into that world, which very few do, then deciding, hey, we could have taken the route of best teams, best coaches, best, but you said, no, what's more important to us as a family is actually being in our community where we're actually going to see these families. We're going to actually get to know them. We're going to be able to do things with them, which I love how you said, Annie, how that just takes time. Yeah. And so it's going to be really hard to develop that community with people that could live hours away or, or you might only see differently. So I think that's a a really important thing to be reminded of is like community takes time, and it's where you are. And so and it's an investment.
And from my background of like as a player, nothing I did when I was 11, 12, 13-year-old on a baseball field helped me get to the big leagues other than just having fun. Like I really believe that. And so many people think now that to give yourself a chance to play in high school or beyond, you have to be on these elite teams when you're 10, 11, and 12. And all I remember is having fun playing with my friends. I mean, it was a different culture back then. Club sports really weren't a thing. But again, like, had I been on different teams that had better coaches or whatever, like, it wouldn't have changed anything. You know, I made it because the Lord wanted me to make it. And because I ended up loving baseball once I got, you know, into my mid-teenage years and really wanted to pursue it. And so I think it's good perspective to have, like, there's a bigger picture, especially at these ages for kids, than just like, yeah, get on the best team and try to win as much as possible.
I think that's a huge word probably that families need to hear, right? Because it is this idea of, well, if I pay all this money and if I get on the right team, like, you know, I'm going to be a star. And like you're saying, actually, no, like really, actually, that was in the Lord's hands first and foremost. But really, it was because I just loved the game and God had given me some skills. So it didn't matter what team I was on, like that was just going to happen. So I love hearing, I think that's a good word for parents, because there is kind of this pressure. If we're not on this team, like what are their chances? And then there can be, I guess, some dysfunction wrapped up in that. How do you navigate your kids' desire, like to play over your desire for them to be? Because there are these great skills, like you said, Brad, that you learn in team sports. Like it's hard to manufacture it any other way. So I think there's just a great thing of being part of a team in the sport world, whatever sport that is. So how do you navigate as like a parent, like, this is something I want you to do, or like this, like, how do you know when they're like, hey, I want to play baseball because I want to play baseball, or I want to play baseball because mom and dad think we should play baseball?
That's like a tricky.
That is a tricky one. I struggle with this a lot. I mean, our kids have always wanted to play baseball. And I don't think I push that. She'll accuse me of like not pushing enough. I'm like, I err on the side of being really hands off because I don't want them to do it because I did it. I want them to do it because they liked it. But then I struggle now because it's like, okay, now they said they want to play and we're doing kind of the next step, the club thing, which, costs a little more money and definitely more time. And so I feel like, there is an added responsibility on their end to practice a little more or show a little more desire, because then I do feel like that I'm the one pushing it if they don't want. So I don't know, I have tension personally of like, okay, you got to show me you want to do this, because if you don't, I'm fine with it. Yeah. So I don't know if I have a great answer.
We don't have a great answer.
No,
but it's like the hardest thing to navigate when the stakes are higher is how much do you expect of the kids to want to do it on their own versus it's still fun. Like, let them have fun,
Well, and I love that, right? There isn't like a right or a wrong thing. And I think the stance that you guys are taking is, hey, it's good to push them a little bit, but we also want to know, hey, do you guys enjoy this? Because I had buddies that were like All-Americans and they got to college and they're like, I don't want to play anymore. And it's like, no, but you're amazing. And they're like, it's not fun anymore. I don't want to play. And their parents are like, wait, what? So, and then you got my daughter who we're riding in the car the other day, and she's like, Dad, I'm like an accidental athlete. Why didn't you put us in sports? I was like, because you guys didn't want to play sports. I was like, she's like, you should have pushed me more. So there's like that tension, right? Like of like, it's like, well, which one is it? And I don't think it's one or the other, right? Like those are two silly examples, but like, I think what you guys are doing is healthy, right? It's like, what works for our family, right? How are we praying about this? How is the Lord guiding this space? And like, and even for you, Brad, it's like, man, I don't want them to feel like they have to be dad. I want them, hey, to play this because they like it. And like, I'll enjoy it if they enjoy it. But, because I think you see those signs when you go to different sporting events where it's basically like, you're not playing, your kid is. And so like, leave your attitude in the car type of stuff. And so, because we do get kind of like too ornery about stuff like that. And it's like, man, the kids just want to, like, let the kids just play. So I think it sounds like you guys are doing it very well, which is
Well, we do. I mean, by no means do we have it figured out. There's been plenty of failures in trying to learn from those mistakes, both on the field with, the game and the kids, and relationally with parents. It's a work in progress. We've been blessed by, again, good people around us, and the Lord's forgiveness and other people's forgiveness when we mess up. Is like it's a learning experience for everybody, going through it. So,
and I think that's a good word, right? Like, don't put that pressure on yourself. Like, you're going to learn along the way, right? Like, this may work for our family, this way might not work for another family, and like, that's okay. So what are some things that have been more like challenging as you've been navigating kind of the sport family life balance? Do my kids play? Do they not play? Do they do club? Do they not do club? What are some maybe nuggets that you guys learned that were more challenging?
Yeah, I think me getting over, I was very anti-club, just again because of my background and me wanting to resist the increased stakes of 10, 11, 12-year-old sports. Because I don't think, again, in a bubble, that's a good thing. But then when we decide to do it, you kind of get to this point where, like, okay, if my kids are good, to get good competition, you kind of have to take the next step. But then I think I probably was naive and thought, because we had great intentions and we were going to go out and do it, try to do it in a Christ-like way and be different, that it'd be smooth sailing. And I probably didn't anticipate just some of the conflicts that are inevitably going to come up. And so looking back, not that they were unable to be overcome or anything, but just that there was going to be conflict. There's going to be different opinions on a wide variety of things, from the uniforms you get to how much money it's going to be a month to how many tournaments you play a month. And, just being able to, even with 11 families, just try to, really find a good balanced middle ground for everybody, that they want to continue to do it together, and that's been probably more of a challenge and taken a lot more work and communication and conversation than I had anticipated. But it's worth it, because when you do it, we're still going with the same group, and it's been great.
And we're seeing the fruits of all those things. Like, I really do see it as, when you surrender these things to the Lord, like, He is going to use it. And I'm thankful for that, for all the time and commitment we've put in over the years with this youth baseball stuff that we've done with our boys, and our daughter a little bit too. She's dabbled a little bit in baseball, softball. I'm not sure she's going to be, successful in anything. We'll see. She's still young. But I would say a challenge too, just a practical challenge that might keep people from, signing their child up for sports, is it is a time commitment, even at like the lowest level. Like, it's still like disrupting your everyday life. But again, I feel like if you look at it more from the perspective of just like another mission opportunity, or way to meet people and way to share Christ's love, like, the Lord can use that in so many ways. And that time that it takes away from your, the everyday stuff, it's worth it. And to, really step into those spaces that are needed, like a team mom, or like helping with snacks, or helping in the snack bar, or helping coach. Like, there's just so many ways that you can plug into your community to show Christ's love that's outside of your normal everyday. I just want to encourage people out there to go through those, like, step into that, because it's challenging, but it's worth it to see how God can move.
And it's a great reminder, right? We're all missionaries and ministers where we are. So I think sometimes we forget about that as the body of Christ, as a church, that, like, hey, you can show that you're a disciple by the way you love at the snack bar, right? The way you help at practice and those kind of things. What have you seen any cool, like, God moments with your boys through kind of like this adventure for their faith, or anything like that, where you're like, you saw them like shine in a way where you're like, oh, that's amazing. Like, I didn't think that was gonna, like, baseball would do that, or that's a hard question.
It is a hard question, but it's good to think about.
No, I don't know if it's so like blatant, like faith moment. I just love seeing, there's a couple kids that they didn't know as well that started with us last spring, and like how quickly they would they invite them into the mix. Like, they became a team really cool, and it's cool for me to see as the head coach, like, you strive to create a culture where it's like everyone's cool with each other and they're functioning as one, and everyone's encouraging each other, especially, even when someone makes an error, or strikes out, that no one puts that person down, and is everyone uplifting. And so when that stuff happens, not just my kids, but everybody, I get proud as a coach of okay, we're uplifting, baseball is such a game of failure. And so it's a good skill to develop and just encouraging. And so that, I think, has been a big thing I've witnessed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Was there any kind of final nugget or thing you wish you knew before you started this journey that you think could help equip or encourage a family as we end our time together?
I think you kind of touched on it, maybe the conflict. You go into it with good intention and you're like, man, everything's going to be great. I'm so willing to help and volunteer and do these things. But when you're dealing with your community or just anyone in general, any human being, there's conflict that comes about when you're planning things. So maybe just, be prepared for conflict. There is going to be conflict. And if you continue to just, do what's right and I don't even know how to, if you handle those conflicts through the lens of how Christ would want you to handle those conflicts, talking through it, apologizing, whatever it may be, trying to figure out how to solve those conflicts. It's going to be fine, but just, you need to expect them, instead of be surprised by it.
And be willing to communicate. And that's the thing of
That's good too.
We go in thinking, especially with like-minded people, that we're all on the same page. And I probably assumed that we're all thinking the same way I'm thinking. And, and other people don't necessarily think that same way. And so it's not even that big of differing of opinions about stuff. You just got to talk about it, because people assume things and you assume things, and then all of a sudden you don't talk about them. And a couple months later, you're on opposite ends of the spectrum about some issue that is not a big deal. But I think, being overly willing to communicate, regularly has been a thing that's really helped, navigate some of that stuff.
That makes sense. So yeah, communication's important. Grace for them and yourself is important. So
and a big thing, because not everybody who's listening to this is gonna be a coach for their kids' team. So grace for people is important, because everybody needs it, and everybody's that are volunteering usually have other things on their plate. Their full-time job isn't being your child's coach or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you said grace for people. That's helpful. I think we could all listen to that a little bit more.
Well, thanks, you guys. This has been awesome. I'm sure we could talk way more about this, but I'm grateful for you guys and just sharing your experience. I think it's going to bless other families and beyond. And so thanks for being salt and light where you are, especially in the sports community, because it's a great evangelical space for us to be salt and light. And so you guys are shining bright in that. So thanks for doing that, right? Nobody does it perfect, but I appreciate your guys' willingness to step into that. So thanks for sharing today. I know sometimes it's weird to be on camera, and nobody's naturally likes to be on that. So it's okay. So thanks for joining me. Thanks for sharing your heart. Thanks for sharing just your heart for the Lord and for the community. I think it's amazing. So, and it's not like you guys don't serve at church a ton too. So it's not like you sacrificed one for the other. It's amazing how I've seen you guys as a family balance your engagement and your service, both in church and on the ball field, which I think that's another incredible thing to watch. You guys do so well, because I think sometimes too people think it's got to be one or the other, and it's man, you guys are rock stars in both.
Well, that's really nice of you to say.
Well, and it's the Lord. It's pretty cool that the Lord gives you energy and time, and it's sometimes you think you won't have the time, but if again you prioritize Him, which
we're trying,
he gives you the energy and the time to make it happen. So it's really a credit to Him and not anything we're doing.
That's the perfect way to end. Just understanding, prioritizing the Lord in all things. And so thanks for joining us on another Building Spirit-Filled Homes podcast. Thanks, Andy and Brad, for joining us, and we look forward to making more of these for you guys.